Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope that you are doing spectacular in this moment in time, whenever and wherever you happen to be catching this podcast. I wanted to remind you guys in this moment that you should try to cook a new dish that you've never done before. Today I did beef and broccoli, and that was all I had. I don't eat carbs, so I don't do rice or whatever. Although I did have one tortilla, which has nothing to do with the beef and broccoli. It's just my son said, "Ooh, this would make a good wrap." So he made a Chinese burrito. I guess that's the fusion part of the meal. But I started thinking about it like a few days ago. I'm like, I had beef and I had broccoli, and I started thinking about how I really like Chinese food, and I really hadn't really had good beef and broccoli in a long time. There's there's Chinese food restaurants here, but they're not authentic-ish. They're like fusion between Peruvian and Chinese, or Ecuadorian food and Chinese food, and it's like it's all the same, like in Peru, I swear to God, there's a giant vat under the city with all the different dishes, and like there's probably a guy with a little rickshaw going between the restaurants, delivering to all the restaurants, because you could go to 10 restaurants and they all taste the same exactly. Like it's almost like one family had 100 kids who had 100 kids who made 1 million restaurants, and they're all exactly the same. That's my impression of it. I'm sure that they actually cook the food in the different restaurants. I went to one restaurant where cockroaches would join you on the table with your meal, which was, I still ate there a couple more times, but it was never in the food. Their food was clean, thank God, but it's just the people were the sweetest people in the world. It was just, we got used to brushing the bugs off. It was gross. But there was never any, like, there's one Chinatown in Lima, one little, which is actually a pretty big Chinatown. In fact, in South America, it's the largest Chinatown. It's not huge, but like, 1 mile long and maybe half a mile wide or something. But Chinese people settled there like over 100 years ago, but the thing is, they fuse the food with in most restaurants, except in Chinatown, you can still get some authentic things. I moved to Chorrillos, and a family from China had just moved there and opened up this massive restaurant. Like 3-story restaurant, gorgeous, gorgeous restaurant. And I started crying when I ate there the first time during their grand opening. And they're like, they could barely speak English or Spanish. And they were like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, I haven't had really decent, good Chinese food in like years. The last time I had decent food from China, from people from China, like authentic food, was in Detroit. And that restaurant there was 100 years old. And so I'm like, oh, I need this, right? So I had to like walk backwards in my memory from the last time I had a really good beef and broccoli. And obviously I'm not going to put MSG in it. I'm not going to commercialize it and make it weird and add cornstarch, because I don't do carbs. And I'm like, dude, I just wanted the most authentic, healthy recipe I could. So I just sat and I thought about it for 3 days. And I reverse engineered it, and it was so excellent. My son's like, okay, 2 things. Instead of olive oil, we'll use sesame seed oil next time. And at the end, before we eat it, we're going to put a handful of sesame seeds on top. And I'm like, yes, that's perfect. It's perfect. But I reverse engineered it. I was like, oh my God, from my memory. And he was like, this is like gourmet quality, like restaurant quality, like excellent beef and broccoli. I'm like, yes, I did it. It's so cool. So I don't know, but I wanted to encourage you guys. That's my little healthy meal story, my more recent one. I mean, I've been eating healthy food, but I haven't made anything like that in a long time. Like just something that like exists outside of my own mind. Because you guys could tell, like, I'm doing this show every single day for like almost 300 days now. And so I'm like extremely creative. Obviously, I am bursting with creative energy in a wide variety of ways. I mean, when I'm not like on here, I'm either writing or I'm writing and encouraging letters. I'm doing readings for people. I paint. I do art. You know, I'm like very, very creative, and I cook, and not a lot, but when I do, I always make really good things. Like I've like created some amazing things. Like I made it was sweet potato. It was handmade ravioli with the filling was sweet potato and garlic with oh God, what else was it? It was like incredible. It was like I don't know. I think I did it with pumpkin too once. And then I did like the toasted pine nuts on top. Oh my God. I've made some like amazing like gourmet stuff that's just unbelievable. Like there's no way, you know, it just, I don't know. My head, I just work in different ways. My head works in a different way than the average person, I think. But I wanted you guys to challenge yourself and try to reverse engineer your favorite dish, but pick something easy. You know, you don't want to just start off with like baklava right away because that's insane. I make, it's been years, but I used to make spanakopita, which is a Greek dish, and I bought the baklava flour. But in Greece, they have like the person who is worth marrying to a Greek man is, and this is a very cisgendered, heteronormative example, but this is like the old world tradition in Greece is if the woman's dough is the thinnest and flakiest out of all of his prospects, she's the one that will be married, right? So like that's like the big thing for Greece. It's so strange, but spanakopita is like a spinach and feta cheese pastry. So it's like you get your dinner and dessert all in one, two in one, and it's one of my most favorite things ever. It's so incredible, and I think it has like a little bit of vinegar in it. But I mean, it would take me 3 days to make it because I would make the Greek salad. And I would do that like the day before the meal, so it would marinate in the dressing. I would do the spanakopita with marinating all the ingredients, and then I would do it in layers. That's how I do my lasagna. It marinates for 2 or 3 days. So, I mean, it's like when I do like a big dish like that, it takes me days to do it, and it's exhausting. So I don't cook a lot, but when I do, it's like incredible food. I really need a maid to like kind of go, you know, going behind me and cleaning up after me. And so I need someone to pick up after me. I mean, I would cook if someone could like do all the cleanup afterwards, I would cook a lot more, like almost every day. I would make big, huge things like that. Like I do, I've done in the past vats of chili from scratch. Like I'm cutting up the tomatoes, you know, like I do spaghetti sauce starting with fresh tomatoes. Like I don't, you know, just, and in later years, you know, when my kids are really little and I was exhausted all the time because I was working 60 hours a week, I'd be like, okay, we're going to buy, you know, the jarred stuff. Some of the jarred stuff is excellent, but I don't think my son, for example, my youngest, has never tasted my spaghetti sauce. In fact, I haven't made it in a long time, but when I make it, oh my God. I mean, people will sneak into my fridge and take it. My old roommates would come in and take it. And like, if people knew I was making spaghetti, they would invite themselves over to my house the next day. And they'd be like, oh, what's there? I'm hungry. Do you have any leftovers? I mean, because everyone knows I make it in a big crock pot. And it's like, if I make it for myself, I would have spaghetti every day for a week. And then I'd make the garlic bread. And it's a whole thing. I used to make even homemade bread sometimes. But because I go out of control with it. And that's kind of the theme of the show, is when you are insanely independent and you want to go completely hog wild and go completely out of control with running every little area and aspect of your life. I mean, if you want to live off the grid and you want to be sustainable, I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, right? And this is what I figure, that this show is going to be extremely interesting to you, even if you don't want to do this. But I'm going to put some seeds. I'm going to plant those seeds in your mind and watch your mental garden grow and see what little bits and pieces of this you could implement in your life, even if you live in a city. I'm going to go over several things tonight. Hopefully I'll get through all of it. But I'm going to talk about how to make houses that won't burn down. Well, there's a concept. How to grow your own food, even if you live in a teeny tiny apartment. I'm going to talk about how to collect water from the air, because I want you guys to have some sustainability, even in the ability to have sustainability, even if, you don't have your own place, even if you don't have your own land. I'm going to give you some ideas, because I feel like, half of the United States is on fire right now. Europe has seen record heat waves. The magnetosphere is wide the hell open. And if the sun lets loose, if the sun just burps, let her rip, and that huge piece of the sun comes flying at us, like it sometimes does. If just the timing is just so, and we get a massive, MCE class flare or whatever, we're going to be without power. You're going to need to know some of this crap, because if we don't have power, we're not going to have a way to pump gas. If you don't have a way to pump gas, there's not going to be any semi-trucks delivering your groceries, and also you can't get your own gas to go to the store anyway. And the stores can't even keep anything cold, right? So you're going to have to learn some very basic things. Even if you just grow your own carrots in a barrel in your living room, you're going to have to do something so that you are going to be okay. So we're going to talk about some of the sustainability, lifestyle sustainability things that you can do. I've been researching this stuff for forever. In fact, I just thought of something else. Let's see here. I just thought of another thing I'm going to talk about tonight. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of how to preserve some food. I'm not going to go deep into that, because that's not the scope of the show. It's a metaphysical show, but I also go into health. And so this kind of falls under the idea of having a healthy life, a healthy lifestyle. Okay, so, if you have a house that doesn't burn down, there you go. You know what I mean? A lot of my friends lost their homes in the Paradise Fire. That video just came out. It's only a 40-minute documentary, and they only interviewed 3 people. It's there was 40,000 people living in the town, and you only interviewed 3 people. And I think maybe all 3 of them didn't even live there, maybe. It's wow, a few people, they interviewed a couple people that lived there, but the majority of the movie wasn't even, it was just I don't know. I just kind of felt like it was kind of slapped together using people's YouTube videos. It wasn't really. I would have liked to have seen a 2-hour documentary or a 90-minute documentary, talking to the residents and showing pictures of their homes before and after. I think it would have been better. More of an impactful thing, but just to see a bunch of burned out lots and you never went there and you never saw what it looked like before, it's like you don't really totally get the full brunt of how bad that was. And you do, but you don't. I don't know. And I lived there, and my kids, we were there for years, 10 years, and and there's always in the back of my mind, I'm gonna go home again, But when I was there, I started looking, during those 10 years, all the stuff I'm going to talk to you tonight came to my mind, things I wanted to do. And I was thinking about moving from there and moving to Oregon and doing all this life-sustaining things, but I was always thinking about this, being a prepper, I suppose. I'm not crazy with it. I don't have an underground bunker, that will feed and house 100 people and no one knows about it. I'm not insane with it. I don't have anything like that at all, but I do have some ideas that might help you at least start thinking along the lines of it, as far as maybe gain some people together in your immediate life, like your family, your neighbors, your friends, and you can all start having conversations like, what happens if we don't have power for 3 months? What happens if there's a natural disaster and the people can't be here to help us? Right now, the fires are so bad in California that they have fire crews there from Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico and Utah and Colorado. And I think Wyoming, was on the list. So there's also fires burning in those areas. You know what I mean? Are they going to pull firefighters in from the East Coast? And then what happens if it happens in the East Coast? For me, I feel like, you should have no trees near your house and a house that won't burn down. Probably would be the best preventative. Have a slab of concrete all the way around your house. That seems to me like some of the better ideas, Have a roof that doesn't catch fire if an ember falls on it. Don't live near a volcano. Another idea, off the top of my head. But I'm not going to go too much into electricity. That's one thing. Actually, I might tell you guys about someone who talks about that a little bit. I don't know yet, but electricity is the only thing. But if we don't have electricity, you can have solar power. Oops, almost dropped the phone. I hope that wasn't super loud. You could do solar power, and there's ways to put your own solar power panels together. And I'm gonna look that up and give you the information, because if you can make it for pennies on the dollar, because if you make a $10,000 solar system for your house and then it only lasts 5 years, were you really spending $2,000 a year on electricity for real? For real though, you know what I mean? So it's that's not sustainable. But there are YouTube videos, I should look this up, but there are YouTube videos where students have designed, in Vietnam, for the poorest people, there was a student that designed these they're wind power generators made with plastic plates that you just buy for a picnic, the throwaway plates. And he was doing it with styrofoam and then later plastic plates. And he just figured out a way to do it. And it powers his laptop and his light that he needs at night. And that's all he needs, because during the day he's at school. And I'm like, that's really, really impressive. I'm sure everybody listening to the show can afford 20 paper plates, right? Or plastic plates. So, you could probably power, the majority of your electricity with something as simple as that, right? So there's some weird stuff like that, and maybe we could generate our own electricity if the grids go down with some of these crazy ideas. They might actually work. It's not like we need our laptops really if, there's no more internet, but who knows? Hopefully Elon Musk's thing will be done soon, and, the 6G network will be up and running and no one's going to get hurt from it. I'm worried about the 5G thing, and, there's always that in the back of my mind. And speaking of, this is another weird thing. The other day, we saw our first chemtrail in Ecuador. It went right above our apartment, and the exhaust was in a corkscrew pattern, which I've never seen before. And the plane was so high up, we could barely see it. It was like a teeny tiny, it looked like a missile, and it was white, and it looked like a plane without wings. So it was either an invisible plane, or it was like, I don't even know, like a rocket or a missile. And it went right above our heads, right above our building, in this weird corkscrew pattern. And then it went so high up in the sky, it literally disappeared, and we never saw it again. And we heard it long after it was gone. So it was way up there, going super fast. And that just hung in the air like 10 minutes. My son got pictures of it. It's crazy. I was like, whoa, I haven't seen chemtrails here. That's another thing. You guys, when you come to a foreign country, you're not going to see the chemtrails crisscrossing the sky. And Edward Snowden said, oh, well, chemtrails don't exist because it wasn't in the file of the CIA. Well, so what? It's not a CIA program, right? It's like a deep, deep secret government program. And yes, they do exist, and yes, they have been tested. People have gone up and collected the stuff that's in the chemtrails. And I find it very strange that he would put that out there. Now I think he's a plant. Now I don't trust him, because he said UFOs don't exist and aliens have never visited the world, and there's no record of it anywhere in the CIA files. Well, why would there be? The FBI, everyone knows X-Files, right? Is FBI, not CIA. But why would the aliens even contact the government for real? But also I do know that they have been contacting the government, and I saw documents that when George Bush was head of the CIA, I had a copy of the document that he signed. It went around all of Santa Barbara for a while. It was, but there's that. But also my ex-husband knew somebody who saw a UFO land on an Air Force base, and the alien came out and shook the hand of the 4-star general working there that day. So I know it's real. I've seen them. Most of you have seen them. The people that listen to the show that have had experience with that have used, most of you, well, I don't know if most of you have contacted me. There might be 90 of you that didn't contact me yet to tell me about your experiences. But I mean, off the top of my head, I know like 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, maybe 10 people that have had these experiences that listen to the show. There's been whole towns in Arizona that are abducted regularly, like thousands of people. So it is real. It is happening. Just because someone couldn't hack into those files doesn't mean, So I heard that the other day, and I was just so mad about it, I couldn't even talk about it for a few days. But something I could talk about today, which is really cool, today is the 199th anniversary of the independence from Spain in Cuenca. So, it's not like a whole country being liberated at once. Here in Ecuador, it's like it took on different days, different cities were were liberated, were freed, So even though this is a 550-year-old city, it took 199 years for the Spaniards. It was 199 years ago when the Spaniards left. So they were here for quite a while, not as long as other cities. They built some gorgeous churches, but most of the people kept their normal ways. Like the Canyaris were pretty strong in keeping with their traditions. A lot of the native people, there's a lot of people that still have Incan blood, that have Incan ways and traditions here. Ecuador wasn't as, it was conquered for a little bit, and then they freed themselves. But like, for example, the Otavalo market has been around for 4,000 years. And that's an open air marketplace just north of the capital of Quito. And it's anything and everything you want in all of Ecuador, it's there. It's like, you want to buy livestock, you want to go buy a couple of llamas and a few chickens, that's where you go. You want to go buy a good horse, that's where you go. You want to buy, ponchos, blankets, skirts, hats, that's where you go. Buy fruits and vegetables or guitars or anything. Furniture, unpainted, furniture finished, everything you need and want, boom, there it is. And that marketplace has been going strong for 4,000 years. Like every day it's been open constantly for that long a time. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I wonder during the riots, I bet there's still a few booths there. I bet some people are like hardcore, like, no, I'm not going to not work, But it's been open consistently every single day, 7 days a week for 4,000 years. And so, I don't know. So this is like, there's some ancient things here that just have always been. And, so thank God for that. Thank God the Spaniards didn't come in and change everything completely, like they did in other countries, where it's just like everyone's Catholic now, and most of the people here that are Catholic are very, very Catholic, but the majority of the people I've talked to, at least I'm not attracting the Catholics, because most of the people go, oh no, I'm not really religious, and if they go, it's because they want to please their grandma, or because it's like, whatever. But most of the people I've met are just like, no, we're native, we have native beliefs, we're just not, or my more recent friend I just made, he's Muslim. He converted to Islam. His parents came from different religions, but they, Christian and Judaism, but they weren't really, I don't know if they were even into it that much. Maybe they were, maybe, but it seems like the children were raised with an open mind, because, he found his heart in Islam. So that's pretty cool. He felt open enough to pick for himself, which I think is cool. There's a lot of open-minded people here, and I love that, in Ecuador. So anyway, yeah, but today is 199 years since Cuenca has been freed from the Spaniards. So yay, that's so awesome, right? Which means next year is going to be a frickin' zoo in Cuenca. These holidays, it's been going strong for 3 whole days. There's been like parades and lectures and free concerts. They have like the national, people play for the national, for national events. And it's like they have like an orchestra. They have a lot of stuff. And I didn't go to any of it. I've been really kind of tired and run down. I think there's a lot of cosmic energy coming in lately, because I've just been dead. I wake up, or I'm working in the nighttime, and then I wake up and I have no energy, and it's like, I've been working all night long. This is crazy. Just like yesterday in the book that I read, in the chapter about astral projecting and then materializing, and I've been every night for 2 weeks, I've been in different situations where I'm in different apartments, I'm in different houses, I'm in different countries, I'm helping people, I'm working with people. And then I wake up and I'm exhausted, like I didn't sleep at all. Even if I sleep 10 to 12 hours, I wake up like I didn't sleep at all. So I don't know, it's crazy. I'm worried about the Heart Math Institute, because I have to look it up, but I think they might be located in California, where the fires are so bad, and they do not have any information. It's just, again today, sorry, the data is temporarily unavailable. And in the Schumann Resonance for Italy, they have their information, and they did not have any glitches. There was no emptiness on the chart today. So Not a lot going on today, though, as far as the Schumann Resonance in Italy. So 32 was the highest thing, and they just said during the last 24 hours reported in the chart, there were only 3 significant short-term events at 1900 UTC time. It was at Hertz 25, and then the second one was lasting 2 hours at 32 Hertz at 6:30, and then the last at 10 UTC time at, I don't know why they say 10, like this, like 1900. Oh, I see. There we go. So it's in the morning. Yeah, 6:30 in the morning, and then 10 in the morning, UTC time at 23. So basically it's just 25 and then 32 and then 23. So cool. All those numbers have some kind of significance for me personally. So, I've got to go check that out. All right. Later, I'm going to check that out. I'm going to meditate on that. I don't know what it means, but I will figure it out. All right. We are still doing a review in A Course in Miracles.org or acim.org, the Foundation for Inner Peace. Lesson 146 is the basic idea, which has been throughout the whole review. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. And taken from lesson 131, we have the single idea. No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. No one can fail who seeks to reach the truth. And taken from lesson 132, the single idea for today is, I loose the world from all I thought it was. I loose the world from all I thought it was. There it is. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and hopefully we're going to get some good information and maybe inspire you guys to be a little bit more thinking along the lines of survival in a wonderful way. I mean, if you could do something that would make you totally okay, completely 100% and totally okay. If something happened and you're like, well, that's cool, I got this, I'm fine, I'll be good. You know, I want you guys to get to that level where you're just like, well, that sucks, it's going to be a little bit inconvenient, but you know what, I have this, and I don't want you to be the only one on the block. I mean, if you could go around telling other people about this stuff, point them to the show, maybe, if you think it's good enough, you know, tonight, and say, hey, you know, we might not even know each other, but we are a community, and if push comes to shove, you know, if there was a 200 mile an hour hurricane on land and trees started snapping and everybody's driveway was completely blocked, couldn't get in and out of your, you know, what would you do? You know, that actually happened to me in my neighborhood, Magalia. That place, I swear to God, it's a government experiment. The whole Paradise of Magalia, I swear to God, was a government experiment. Some of the weirdest stuff. In fact, my kids and I, we've talked about making like a spooky kids show about the weird crap that we saw there. It would be perfect for that, like a young adult or like a, you know, like a grade schooler, like spooky, like, ooh, there was a ghost in the woods. You know what I mean? Like, because there's so many incidences that we came across. So many creepy things and crazy things. And like my son told me the other day about this kid that showed up, and he had been in the school for a couple years before, and everybody knew him, and he left, and he came back, and he was a completely different kid with the same name, but his eye color and hair color were different. Even his skin tone was different. He talked differently. And he swears he was the kid that was there before, and everyone knew he wasn't. It's like, who the hell's this kid? Who the hell's this kid? This isn't the one we remember. You know, why'd you send us a different Josh or whatever his name was, you know? It's like, what the hell? I mean, over and over and over again, things, especially this fire that burned the whole town down, the evidence down, I mean, the whole town down, you know? It's like, I just always wondered if it wasn't like a government experiment. And if we wrote a kid's show, it would be based on all true things that happened to us and people we knew. You know, we just say it's fiction and called a whole different name, you know, town name, but creepy crap, man. Really crazy stuff. Like, I don't know, but you know, all this stuff happened, and you know, I've been through so much in my life that there's a lot of things I think, well, you know, when I was a little kid and we were in the flood in California, where all of a sudden there was flash floods and the water was up to my knees, and it took about 20 minutes for there to be flash floods. And later as an adult, there were flash floods in Stockton, Modesto, where people were standing up to their necks in water, and they were standing on top of their cars, 12 feet of water in just like 2 hours or something. It was like crazy, you know, deeper than most swimming pools in just a matter of hours. I mean, the storms are happening right now. They're unprecedented. So, I mean, I think back on that. I'm like, you know, it would have behooved us to have a little fishing boat to get around town when, you know, the cars were, you know, it would have behooved us to had 2-story garages where we could have driven our car up into the second floor. How come no one does that? You know, or to have those hydraulic lifts that the auto mechanics have. Why can't you do a hydraulic lift and lift your car up? Why don't people have that in their homes? I don't know. I think about this stuff all the time based on all the crap I've been through. So I'm gonna give you guys some sustainable ideas. Not that, because putting a hydraulic in your garage, probably not a lot of sustainability there. So we're not going to really talk about it. It was just an idea I had. I also thought about having a floating house. You guys know how much I love to float, how much I wish I could levitate and float around my house, but I just watched The Man Without Gravity tonight. A lot of things I would have done different if I had been writing that script, but it was a really interesting idea. It was made in Italy. It was I liked hearing it in Italian, but then I switched over to English halfway through because I didn't want to look at the TV all the time. I had things to do on my phone, getting ready for the show tonight. But yeah, you know, like these ideas, I'm gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna come back and give you some ideas about little things you can do, as well as bigger things that you can do. And we're going to talk about it because, you know, like all over California right now, houses are on fire because they're built with what? Wood and paper. You know, it's like, why? Why? Y'all know that there's a fire season. There's a fire season every year. I mean, go over the border, take a quick hop step, you know, jump, hop, step, whatever, to Mexico, just on the other side of the border, and all the houses are made from cement. And guess what doesn't burn? Their houses. You have a kitchen fire, grease fire, they all run out, things burn, and then they come back, clear it all out, and just put up new curtains the next day. You know, it's just a cement house. You paint it. You paint the wall again. It's easy. Bada boom, bada bing. We still got our house. You know? So we're going to have a couple conversations, a couple discussions about a couple different things right after this message. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to talk about what if you bought a little piece of land in the middle of nowhere and you wanted to build a house on it. You're like, oh my God, I got to put a concrete foundation. I got to do this. I got to do that. Well, there's always a tiny house option, which we're not going to get into tonight. And I have an idea about that. I might do another show on this later. With that and buying government land for $200 claim, if you could strike a gold claim on land, it's $200 a year, and you have to work for 10 hours on the land, and that's it. And you go in with a friend, and you each get 40 acres. That's 80 acres. So you're middle frickin' nowhere with your own gold claim, and you could bring a tiny house because you're not allowed to build on government land. There you go. That's an idea. We're not going to talk about that yet, or the tiny house thing, but that is always a possibility. You know, I think it sure beats mobile homes, and they are mobile homes, but some of the little tiny houses look like little tiny log cabins. Some of them or look like gypsy caravans. I've seen some amazing tiny homes. So if you're not a homeowner and you want to be, and you only have a very little bit of money, look into the tiny home thing, especially if you want to be a nomad and travel with the sun, like a sunflower, like a human sunflower. I mean, some people do that, and it's a blast, and there's clubs, and you get into, like, maybe there's spiritual clubs, and everyone sells something new. Someone does t-shirts, someone does crystals, and you go from town to town like a gypsy caravan, but in your tiny home. It's actually pretty cool. You don't have to go camping because your house is a house on wheels. Don't got to pay taxes. So that's an idea, that a lot of people have done. And then there's tiny home communities that are settled in a place, and they're still on wheels, but they, have their houses, and then they put their, boards around the wheels. It looks like a normal house and teeny tiny house, but that's also something, it's a lot of people are doing that. But I want to talk about something that's not going to burn the hell down. 253 fires burning in the United States right now, and you got to know about this. Like, in an instance like that, everything's going to be gone, right? You know, no electricity, no infrastructure. All the houses around you are burned down. It's like, you can't stay there. It's a hazard. Paradise is going to be a hazard for, the next 10, 20 years. It's literally a hazardous waste dumping ground right now. It's impossible to live there. But what if you were in the middle of nowhere, like in Oregon or something, say, and you were like, well, I could build a cob cottage. Do you guys know about cob cottages? If you go to cobcottage.com, there are volunteers that will come to your project and help you build your cob cottage house. Okay, according to Wikipedia, there are many old cob buildings that can be found in Africa, the Middle East, and many parts of the Southwest U.S., and also throughout Oregon. They just don't know about that. A number of cob cottages do survive from the mid-19th century New Zealand. Traditionally, English cob was made by mixing the clay-based subsoil with sand, straw, and water, and they used oxen to trample it. So sand, straw, and water. That's it. So if you go to cobcottage.com, and that cob is spelled C-O-B, like corn on the cob. I want you guys to, if you have any interest in this whatsoever, you can, even if you live in like a house already and you have a really big yard, you can learn how to make cob and create a pizza oven out of cob, and it won't cost you more than $200. In fact, if you've got sandy soil, it might only, and if you have like straw growing, you can just go get bales of straw and if you want to just do like an oven to see how this stuff works. With a cob oven, you can, you put in the wood, you light the oven, or you light the wood inside the oven, and you wait a couple hours, and then you sweep out all the ashes, and you're going to bake with metal pans anyway, so it's not going to get dirty. And you sweep away all the ashes, and that oven can cook food for 8 to 10 hours. So you could do all of your meals for the whole week in one afternoon. And you could even build one of these on a platform on wheels, and if you're renting, and then you could just take it from place to place wherever you live. You could have it, you could build a clay oven and have it forever. And they make the best pizza ovens. If a normal pizza takes 20 to 30 minutes, in a cob clay oven, it only takes like 2 to 3 minutes. So not only does it cook much faster, but you only spent the price of like a bundle of kindling, not even full logs, just little tiny pieces of wood. So that's like $5. And how much would it cost you in electricity if you were going to bake for 8 hours or 10 hours? So you can kind of see, and there's, I'm going to tell you exactly how to get the information on what the times are to bake everything, but I haven't built one yet. I've always had a dream to build one, but I lived in Guatemala where they were building a clay oven at the hostel where we lived. They already had one, but they wanted a bigger one. And my kids participated in the building of this. My youngest knows exactly how to make a clay oven, and he did. And then we had roast chicken out of it. Unfortunately, it was the rooster that kept waking me up every morning. And after I ate them, they told me, I'm like, wait a minute, where's the rooster? That chicken is really good. Wait a minute, where's the rooster? Oh, I feel so sad for him. I'll meet him in heaven and give him a big hug and tell him I'm sorry. I had no idea that I ate him, but that little bastard, he would come right underneath my window and he'd put his little beak right where like the curtain was open, just like an inch. And then he'd be like, water like as loud as he could. He was so obnoxious. And then he would like hop up on this brick thing and look in a different part of the window, and he'd see me sleeping, and he would single me out. Out of all the people in the hostel, he always singled me out. So they wanted to make sure that I got to eat him, I guess. Oh, he was such a cute little guy. I didn't mind it at all. It made me laugh every day. Like, you little bastard, get away from my window. And he'd run around in a circle, go like to the other end of the compound, and then he'd come back and wake me up specifically again because he knew I was going back to bed. I really irritated him. I wasn't up to play with him, so... Crazy. I loved that rooster. But my son did build a cob oven, so you could start slow and build a cob oven. And if you own where you live, or you have a really cool open-minded landlord, you could talk about building a cob bench, just to start out, to see how it works. And if you go to cobcottage.com, they have all kinds of information on how to do it. And if you want to be a part of these builds all throughout Arkansas, this is a big deal in Arkansas and throughout the South in the United States and around the world. Now, the oldest standing cob cottage house in the world that has been found, brace yourselves, it's not 100 years old. It's not 200 years old. It's not 1,000 years old. It is 10,000 years old, still intact. If you do it right, you can have a house that your grandchildren's grandchildren could live in. So that's why this is very sustainable. I mean, you start off small with a small oven. You can maybe build a little teeny tiny one and make it like a candle holder, just for your tabletop or inside your home. That'd probably heat your whole room all night long and save a ton on electricity. But if you're interested in this, cobcottage.com. You just build, people, they've got a ton of volunteers. They'll come and build your house with you, and they make it a big party. Everyone brings tents. Everyone brings food, or maybe they expect you to provide the food, which is okay. You're getting a house built for free. And people, not oxen, trample you got to mix the straw and the water and in the sand, and you just mix it all in the clay. But that clay is found 2 feet down under the surface of the earth in almost every place on the planet. It's everywhere. That's why it's so sustainable. It's everywhere. So, it's just like stomping grapes, to make wine. You just stomp around on it in your bare feet. Kids love it. Gets their energy out, especially boys. It's really good activity for boys with a lot of testosterone coursing through their veins, and they're like 12 years old. You know what I mean? Like, it's like kids have that just so much exuberance and energy, and boys are like way more energy than girls. Like extra power. You know what I mean? Because of the hormones, right? So it's good for little kids to get their aggressions out stamping in the mud, and they love doing it. And it's so cute. And also it's neat because they get to make their own house. What are we doing, Mom? We're making our own house. Oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. Now, a cob cottage does take a long time to build. It can take months to build, and you got to make sure not to do it in the rainy season, obviously. And so there's some things. So if you're interested in that, but the thing that I like about it, they're very moldable. You can make a house shaped like a freaking mermaid or a seashell. It doesn't have to be a square box. You can put plaster and paint, limestone plaster or paint on the outside, and it's impenetrable by rain. Although I have heard of if people forget about the ventilation, I have heard that you could get mold in there, but like in your clothing and stuff. I don't think on the walls get mold in a cob cottage. You just got to be careful with the temperature, but it keeps it very, very warm in the winter, because it absorbs the heat and it keeps it very cool in the summer because the walls are so thick. You know, there's other things to do, like straw bale hay homes are very beautiful. Super thick walls. They're like 2 or 3 feet thick walls. It's crazy. But they have to be kind of square-ish, you know. They're not really, you know, and there's other houses made with bottles and earth homes and earth domes and all kinds of homes, but I'm not going to focus on all those right now. I just want to mention it in case you get the bug for looking this stuff up on Pinterest or on YouTube. I mean, seriously, it's like a rabbit hole you could go down for like a couple weeks or a couple years, depending on how excited you are about this kind of sustainable building thing, because I love it. I just sit and look at this stuff all day long. I love real estate. I love the idea of having land and having houses, but don't love the idea of losing all of it in a matter of minutes if it all catches on fire. You know, throughout Guatemala and Mexico and all of South America, most of the places are built with cement. You know, if you hear of a fire, it's usually someone's barn or someone, you know, or like, you know, plants. But you don't hear like, you know, millions of dollars were lost in home damages. You know, you don't hear of that here. You know, knock on particle board wood. It doesn't happen here, but I mean, it's not as deadly or a big of a deal as it is in California. So, especially if you live in California and now you have a burned out lot, what do you do with the land after it's been cleared? You know, that's what I'm thinking. Sustainable, you know, dome homes. Dome Gaia. This is another one. Dome Gaia. D-O-M-E, like dome. And then G-A-I-A, like Mother Earth. Okay. DomeGaia.com. Now, this guy, I don't know if I think he created aircrete. It's like concrete filled with bubbles of air. And it's a lot thinner than the other building things. Now, I like, you could actually do a lot with this too. And I like his designs are gorgeous. I recommend just going to DomeGaia.com and looking at the inspirational designs. So what this is you take water and concrete, and there's a machine that he invented. And you could do it yourself with the mixer. He's got the instructions if you don't want to build a house with his $300 machine. I definitely want to do this. I definitely want to buy the $300 machine because it mixes everything perfect. But check this out. This is the ingredients for this house. It's like putting together a recipe. Okay? Concrete, water, liquid dish soap. And that's pretty much it. If you want it a little stronger, you can add fiber to it. And he has a list of what fibers work best. And that's it. Now, you don't build a 2 or 3 or 4 story home. You're not going to build a 20-foot, or 20 story high rise with this. But to build a 1-level home, but he's built 1-level homes with lookouts on top of the home with staircase that goes up to the top. And he stood on the homes he built in Thailand. And these homes, I mean, they look like igloos, or you could do a bunch of series of round domes together. And then you would do cutouts in it. And it's incredible. But this stuff is weird because, all right, you mix it, you make these, you put plastic down so it doesn't leak. And it has to be less than 12 inches thick. And then you use the machine. You mix it up in a giant, like a 55-gallon drum, or like the plastic barrels. You mix up all the cement and all this stuff, and then attach it to the machine somehow, and it just shoots it out. So it sounds like super fun, right? I mean, so now Cobb Cottage you're dancing in the mud, so you're going to get dirty. Even though I'm a Virgo, I kind of love the idea, but I love this one more because it's made from soap. So it's a clean, the dirty way to build your house, and now this is a clean way to build your house. So you make these big frames, you make the frames just square or rectangle frames, and you shoot this cement, water, fiber, and dish soap, like literally what you use to wash your dishes with. And he has the best ones, like Dawn, liquid Dawn. And that's it. And you spray it into these frames. They're square. And the next day you take a knife, like a butcher knife, okay, like what you cut bread with, or like a steak, and you cut out the sections and pieces of your home like it's a giant gingerbread home. And you can make round homes or any shape of home, anything you want to do. The round domes are pretty windproof. Think about Buckminster Fuller and his buckyballs experiments, and how dome homes came about, because they are the strongest standing. They can withstand, hurricanes, and I think maybe tornadoes. But I'm not sure about that, so don't quote me on that. But definitely hurricane winds, 200-mile-an-hour winds are withstood easily in a dome home, because the wind just goes around it because it's a circle. So, but you can build anything you want. You can build a pond or a swimming pool with aircrete. And a 1,000-square-foot home will cost you $4,000 to build. It's unprecedented. It's earthquake proof, it's mold proof, it's mildew proof, it's insect proof. You're not going to get bugs eating at the walls because they can't get in cement. And because of the liquid dish soap, what happens is the blocks that your house is built with are super lightweight. They're like pumice stone, and they float. And people have made floating things. I won't say floating homes, but you could conceivably make a floating home. If you take care of it, it can last hundreds of years. You're probably not going to be around hundreds of years, so how great is that? He shows this home. It's a gorgeous home. It's like huge. It's like these giant circles. It's really strange. It looks like it's from another planet. It's these huge circles, and he's got cupolas on top for ventilation, and he's got these overhangs that are round. It looks like almost like a hobbit house or something you'd find on Tatooine. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's Earth, but he built this in Thailand. He created this idea, built it in Thailand. He perfected it over the years. And again, if you want these people to come, you want volunteers from all over the world to show up on your land, all you have to do is provide like a glamping tent city situation, provide food and shelter and a place to go to the bathroom. And these people will come from all over the world. They sign up for the workshops, and they pay for the privilege of building your home for you for free. All you have to do is buy the materials. So I don't think there's anything more sustainable than that. You know what I mean? As far as, building, think about like even when people build the Habitat for Humanity homes, they put up a wooden frame. Sometimes there's rebar in the foundation. They pour the cement. They do the rebar. They do the frames. They put up the sheetrock, insulation and sheetrock, and then they paint over it. Bada boom, bada bing. You got a house that can cost you a lot of money. $50,000 or more, sometimes depends on how big it is, depends on where it is. You got to buy the land, and they give you good loans, but still really expensive. I looked into this when I was looking to buy a house for my kids before I decided to travel with them instead and live in 6 different countries so they can learn about the world more. And then came back and I bought a $9,000 house in Detroit that's built from bricks. Again, it's like, the roof can catch, but everything else would be remaining. A lot of houses in Detroit that have burned down, they didn't burn down, just the roof burned. The walls are solid. It's the smartest way to build is something's not going to burn, right? But like the Habitat for Humanity houses, some of them are $150,000. It's not that affordable, but you could have a house that you could build in the same amount of time. In fact, less time. Instead of 3 months to build it, an aircrete home only takes just a matter of like a couple of weeks. Like, it's like so, like, I don't know. Let's see if there's any facts. Store, tools, galleries, workshops. Okay, let me tell you about, there is a workshop in January in Tulum, Mexico. Let's see what this build is. It's an aircrete dome building. Oh, it's so cute. They say Enlaquech, which means I'm another yourself in Mayan. Oh, nice. So really close to the Soliman Bay beach and the crystalline waters and all the cool caves and the sweet little sea turtles swimming around. You learn how to build a sacred space, and you work as a team. You make the aircrete with their unique tools that they created. This guy invented not only the aircrete, but the tools to make the homes. And you build the dome using a compass arm, and you build an archway and a pyramid skylight for this particular home. Build a center pivot oval-shaped wooden door. Practice techniques to build custom furniture out of concrete. Well, hey, again, I didn't know you could even do that, so that's pretty cool. So when you sign up, they give you a 16-page detailed digital download of how he built his original first house in case you like the design and want it for yourself, and he'll teach you how to do it. Now, if you go to domegaia.com and you look at all these pictures, it's so inspiring. His home is kind of like a weird, like, color. I don't know. It's like a orangey, reddish color, but you can make, this is what's so crazy cool about this. When you're mixing this stuff up to make your home, you could add, like, dye to it, and he tells you how to do it. So you can make a green house or a purple house or a golden house or any color of the rainbow that you want your house to be. Or at the end, you could put stucco on it or plaster and paint over it, and you can reinforce it with a special fabric. He even tells you how to do that to make it a little bit stronger. And you can just paint it like a normal house, but the walls are round. The space feels more cozy and homey, and it's beautiful and very, very creative. I'm looking at these pictures, and it looks like little hobbit houses. This is gorgeous, gorgeous. But they will pay for all, like, you have to pay to go, and you pay for the workshop to learn if you want to go do this, and you're helping someone build their house. But you know what? You could just have them come build your house for you. You provide all the stuff. And a 10-day workshop tuition, people pay $1,200 per person to register for this, or $2,200 for 2 people. And let's see, it is 11 days. They build a freaking house in 11 days. That's unprecedented. That's unheard of, right? That's incredible. So now those are some really cool ideas. Now, again, you can just go to the website and kind of self-educate yourself, and you could buy his tools and build concrete furniture, or you can build smaller things first, to figure it out. You have to let it dry for a couple days, and you put it together, and the way he does it's absolutely incredible. So that's what you could do to build a house, or at least to know how to have a sustainable, thing that's going to be, it's going to be there forever. You're not going to live 200 years probably. And if you are, awesome, good for you. But you want to live in a place that's not outgassing, with chemicals. It's not built with a bunch of chemicals. Because, like, the worst chemical in this is Dawn dishwashing liquid. And once it's dry, you use this for your dishes to eat off of, right? This is what your house would be built out of. And so there's not a whole lot there. There's no outgassing from concrete, I don't believe. It's just like really sustainable. Cob cottages, just no outgassing. It's just earth. It's like dirt. Once it's done and the plaster's on, it will never be penetrated by rain. you know? So these are two ways that you can make a house that's going to be there forever. Even if there's a fire and you have to evacuate, you're going to come back to a house that's not destroyed. You know? I mean, for me, that's like, after all the stuff I've been through, and I did live through one of those fires, thank God my house was okay, and we were able to come back, but being evacuated for 10 days like that, not fun. Not fun. It was scary as hell. And our house was a 3-story wooden house with plastic siding and a wooden deck all the way around it. Surrounded by trees. One of the trees was actually touching the house. We were like so scared, you know, that was just, and I was surrounded by a 60-acre forest. Gorgeous. It was beautiful to live there, but not during fire season or hurricane. That hurricane on land, which was weird. So what happens if you don't want to build, or, you know, that's not your thing? Well, what else can we do that's sustainable? Okay, so I'm going to tell you some things about growing food, okay? There's a few things. I'm going to talk about, you know, what you do with food after you've grown it. So, okay, if you live in a teeny tiny apartment and you want to grow your own food because you're having a hard time paying your bills, there is a way to have a garden on one wall in your house. So if you have a south-facing wall that's going to get the most amount of sun, you can just you build a thing vertically, and you put seeds, and you could look this up. Look up vertical gardening. There's planters that you can build, or there's planters you can buy. Some of them are like fabric that just will hold the plants. And you put little plastic sleeves inside, and there's ways to do it, right? So you can plant the plants. There's a thing called the topsy-turvy that you can turn upside down and grow strawberries, and the strawberries will hang down while the leaves go up. So you can pick the strawberries easily, and there's ways to do that with tomatoes as well. So there are things you can find for, you can look up like apartment living, like gardening ideas, right? So you could do that, but I like this wall idea. I found Bob Pierce, and you have to look this guy's name up, Pierce. Now, Bob Pierce he's very weird. He's like very conservative, and yet he's very interested in this kind of stuff. And I'm going to see, he always sells stuff about weapons, and, you know, I learned Krav Maga from one of the videos he sent. But I also found out about this vertical gardening thing, and he has he'll send you like free tomato seeds. He's strange. He's like a conservative Republican type dude, but he's also a prepper and survivalist, and so he has some amazing ideas about this stuff. And so I'm going to look up gardening Bob Pierce. Let's see if this comes up. Edible Madison, I don't know if that's his stuff or not. Robert Pierce. Yeah, of course, you know, his name might as well have been Bob Smith. There's a million people. Yeah, this might be The Way to Harvest. This Way to the Harvest, Ken Anderson and Bob Pierce. These guys work together, and this guy's really interesting. He's got some really good information, but once I find it, I'll get back to you guys on that. If you're really interested, let me know. But he had a way to build just in he said by like a 3 to 5 foot by 7 foot space going vertical, like from the ground up and only a foot wide. He had plans that he sent me. Hopefully I still have them in Detroit. But these plans were you could grow like 100 plants, like herbs and healing herbs and you just put them in a south-facing window, and you just water them, spritz them with mist or whatever every day. And he had the plans for it. And I thought that vertical gardening inside an apartment, you could do this anywhere you live, whether you rent or not, if you have a south-facing window. And if you don't, you can always buy those sunlight bulbs, you know, in the grocery store. They're more expensive, like $4 or $5. but they last longer and they have all the full spectrum that the plants need to grow. So during daylight hours, you just keep that bulb on and your plant's going to grow, right? There's also UV lights you can buy specifically for gardening. And I think there are some that are very low as far as how much wattage they use, but you could grow your own food, you know? You could grow banana plants indoors. You can grow tomatoes. You can grow coffee plants. There's a lot of crazy stuff that you can buy. There's, let's see, Heirloom Seed Company. I highly recommend if you want to do this. But I mean, what if you grew all the ingredients of your grandma's favorite spaghetti sauce? You know what I mean? You could just do it. Bell peppers and tomatoes in a little teeny tiny half of a wall in your kitchen. You know, so for sustainable living. So now what happens if you do grow everything? Or what if you, okay, now that I'm going to go to the next thing before I go to that. Now, what if you do have a space outdoors where you can grow a garden? But what if you live in a house, you know, in a city? So you can make walkways with plant blueberries along walkways. Their ornamental plants are gorgeous, but they're also providing you blueberries, you know. Eat your blueberries on the way to your garden in your little walkway. You could plant fruit trees. Of course, they take a lot of years to grow, so you have to buy them when they're a little bit more mature. But I'm going to give you a way to collapse the time frame of it. I'm going to give you a way to grow walnut trees that take 50 years before the walnuts come. I mean, literally, if you plant a walnut tree from a seed, it's going to take 50 years before you get a walnut. I mean, have you ever wondered why walnuts are so freaking expensive? I bought a bag of walnuts today the size of my hand, and it was $1.50. It wasn't very many walnuts. It really wasn't. You had to buy a bag of walnuts like the size of 2 of my hands, or 3 of my hands. It's like $6 at the store here. I think because we have to import them from North America. But walnut trees cost, I mean, it's like 50 years, and they take up a lot of water, a lot of resources, and it also takes a good, like, 50 years before the veneer. When you have a beautiful piece of walnut furniture, the walnut veneer, when it's not walnut all the way through, because the wood is so freaking heavy, because it takes a million years to grow, you know, it just takes forever to grow. But what if I could tell you, you could probably have a veneer in 12 years and walnuts in 25, you know? If you buy a 5-year walnut tree and then plant that, you know, you could collapse those time frames. And I'm going to tell you a secret about it. Sonic Bloom. So Sonic Bloom, this is the ultimate in sustainable gardening and farming. Dan Carlson's sonicbloom.com is the website. Dan Carlson, Carlson, and then Sonic, Sonic, Bloom, Bloom.com. Dan Carlson, sonicbloom.com. Now, this is the ultimate in sustainable gardening and farming, and this is the story behind this. This man was in Korea during the war. He saw a lot of super poor people. He had grown up middle class and never thought about it much. You know, he was a young kid when he went to the war, and he got over there, and it broke his heart to see people living in filth and poverty and not having any money and not having very good food. And then he started talking to people that they were talking about the desert, like in Africa, they can't grow food. And in Israel, they can't grow food because of the desert. And, you know, it's like really, they can grow food, but it takes a lot of water. They got to truck it in or pipeline it in, and it's a big frickin' pain. And he was like, no, there's got to be a different way. And he spent the next, I think it was like 40 years developing this, okay? So he created oh my God, he even has new stuff here. I'm looking at his, oh my God, this is so great. Okay, so he started studying, like seriously studying this stuff, okay? And he found out that in modern times, our vegetables and our fruits don't have all the nutrients necessary to sustain our lives. And that's why we have to turn to supplements, because we're not healthy. Most of us are malnourished. Even if we are middle class, right? Or rich. Doesn't matter how rich you are and how great you eat, you might be malnourished because and have you ever wondered why, when you look back in the movies from the 1950s, everyone was so thin and so beautiful with perfect skin, right? Translucent. And now you look at, just look around the US and people aren't skinny anymore. They're like, people are so fat because there's no nutrition in the food and their body keeps craving more and more and more food. And everyone's hormones are screwed up because all the stuff isn't organic anymore. And people get really fat. And, it's not their fault. It's not like they're, just eating like gluttonous pigs. That's not usually the case. Usually the case is they don't know how to cook their food or what is right for their body type. But is like a big part of it. Nutrition is a big part of it. But just when you eat an orange of today, a regular orange you get at the grocery store, it's going to have hardly any vitamin C in it. When I was a kid, they had enough vitamin C to sustain you for the day. And now it's like hardly anything. It's like not even 10% of that in some cases. So what is the big difference? What Dan Carlson discovered is the big difference is the songbirds are going away. With all the use of pesticides and there's no more insects for them to eat, a lot of the songbirds are gone. And what he discovered, and this is the most amazing discovery, is that the pores, the cells of plants, of the leaves of plants, open up when they hear the sound of the songbirds. The pores of the plants open up. And he's like, that's really weird and interesting. He spent 40 years developing this. Okay, so he also thought, what would be the best fertilizer I could give to plants from an extremely sustainable source? So he developed this liquid, concentrated liquid that you add a little bit to like a gallon of water and you water your plants with it. Made from seaweed from the California kelp forest in the ocean, in the Pacific Ocean, because it grows like 2 feet every day. It's absolutely sustainable because it constantly is growing. So he figured out the best way to make this liquid. So this is what you do. To mimic the songbird sound, he created sonic bloom. You play it for your plants for a half hour in the morning, and what happens is the leaves on the plants open up, and you go around spraying all the leaves, and it makes a natural barrier that makes the plant kind of create its own form of alcohol, so that if a bug, an insect intruder, tries to eat the plant, it gets extremely drunk and falls down dead of alcohol poisoning, and the plant is fine. There was a story on his website about a lady who lived in Texas and used sonic bloom for her garden, and the swarm of locusts came in and ate everything in sight in her whole city. In a matter of 2 days, everything was gone, except for her garden was still standing, and there were millions of locusts dead in a yard because they tried to eat her plants and they could not. There was a testimonial of a family who used sonic bloom to grow cabbage, and the cabbage was so big and it was just so huge and so healthy and so impenetrable to mold and fungus, and it doesn't go bad, that this family of, I don't know, it was 4 or 5 people, it took them 6 months to eat a head of cabbage because it was so much food. And it didn't go bad in 6 whole months in their fridge. And when these foods have been tested, they have like 1,000% of what is on the market today as far as all the nutrients. Apples have more zinc and provide better immunity. They have more vitamin C. They provide better immunity. Full spectrum vitamin C. Corn on the cob that's normally like 8-9 inches for an ear of corn. This family decided to use sonic bloom with their corn, and they were growing 2 to 3 foot long corn on the cob. Again, that doesn't go bad. Can you imagine apples that go to the store and they just don't go bad, and they're completely organic, because seaweed is organic. What he learned is how to help the plants provide for themselves in the best possible way to protect and preserve the fruit and the plant, and creates the best amount of vitamins and minerals in all of the food that people grow. In Utah, this family grew these enormous tomato plants that look like, it's on his website. There's a video of this. It looks like you're walking through like a bamboo forest or something. You don't really notice. You're like, wow, those are huge trees, until you realize those are tomato plants. And the tomato plants are growing tomatoes the size of grapefruits. And they're doing this in the dead of winter when there's no fresh tomatoes available in Utah. And people are like, oh my gosh. So these little local grocery stores are buying these people's commercial tomatoes that are made with they're just put in a greenhouse in the dead of winter with sonic bloom. There would be no songbirds in February, but they provide this sound of it's like a CD, and they play it on the speakers. There's like a machine that plays it if you have like 5 acres worth of stuff to grow, or you could just play it on a regular CD player. And he tells you all the instructions are there, how to do it. And it's only a couple $100. But you're going to make, 1 gallon makes 256 gallons of ready to spray sonic bloom. 1 gallon costs $250 plus shipping. But it ends up being $1 a gallon for the stuff you're going to spray on your plants. And that's it. Rudolf Steiner says that bird songs have had a powerful effect on the flowering and the fruiting of plants. He says when you remove the winged creatures, there will be a stunting in the vegetation. So this guy put it together. Dan Carlson put Rudolf Steiner's information from Secrets of the Soil. He put all this together. I have a feeling he's an INTJ, where he hears from a bunch of different places, and then he put it together in one huge thing, and he's like, oh yeah. But these testimonials they would blow your mind when you see this. Absolutely blow your mind. Now, there's a magazine I'm going to tell you guys about that will tell you everything you need to know, but I'm going to tell you about that in a moment. Yeah, this guy, like you could go down apples and avocados, bananas, berries. People grow everything with this. Black walnut trees in 20 years are producing not only the veneer, but also the walnuts in 20 years. So you buy a tree that's 5 years old already. Basically, in 15 years, you can have your walnuts. It's like incredible. Coffee, people are growing coffee, which is good because it also resists mold and mildew, and they just had a massive die-off of coffee plants 6 years ago in Guatemala when I was there. The year before I was there, it happened like in 2012, I think. And all the coffee farmers are like, oh my God. And the price of coffee rose all over the world because they had to ship it from farther away to some places, to to North America, for example, and Europe. Look at avocados. Inside the canopy were big as softballs. They wouldn't even fit in the avocado picking basket. The banana plantation in Okinawa reported 100% increase in yield, so basically double the bananas, and they reduced maturation time by 35%. So if it normally takes 3 months to grow a banana, it now takes 2 months. So, and it's always much more healthy. citrus fruit, cauliflower. Let's see, the cauliflower. The cauliflowers are so big that only 4 can fit in a box normally designed for 12 cauliflower heads. And it's like completely sustainable. This guy figured out a way to grow this food in the desert, and he did it in Africa, and he did it in Israel, and he did it on all these different deserts. There's also a sustainable water thing that you can get. It's like plastic pouches of water that you put, and it slowly sends water into the soil for trees in the desert, and that's another thing that you can do. Now I'm going to tell you about some water, sustainable water, because after you have your sonic bloom and you've got your heirloom seeds from the heirloom seed companies, just look that up on Google. You're going to find them. They're amazing. You want the original things that your ancestors ate because it's so much better for you. So then you go to fogquest.org, and they're going to show you about the mesh that they're using to capture water from the air in the deserts around the world. And there's so much water being produced by each of these sails. They're like they look like beautiful sails in the sky, and they also can be used for shade. And they're capturing water in the end of the sail, or the end of the mesh fabric. It goes into, it's polypropylene, but it doesn't outgas into the water or anything. It just gathers the water, and the water slides down the fabric, and it goes into a tube, which goes into a closed barrel. And people in the Atacama Desert in Peru are now able to provide water for themselves to cook with and bathe with and grow their vegetables with and water their horses and their cats and dogs with. Whereas before they had to have all their water trucked in, and no one could afford it, so a lot of people went without water. They wouldn't bathe, they couldn't grow any food, they couldn't really keep their livestock alive. It was like a big issue. Now in the Atacama Desert throughout Chile and Peru, massive desert, people are actually gathering the dew in the morning. There's like, when the temperatures fluctuate, it creates this dew point, and it creates there is moisture in the air, very little moisture in the air, but it's in the mornings. So the water, while they sleep, the water is being created and put into their barrels, and they wake up and bada boom, bada bing. I mean, in places that haven't seen rain in 100 years, they now have they now have water directly from the air. They're capturing it, and it's changing people's lives. So what would this do for you if you had a way to capture fog or dew in the air? And when people live in the middle of nowhere, you could do this without plumbing, without having things trucked in. You have enough sails going, and then you get Life Straw has barrels that will filter out 10,000 gallons worth of water before you need to replace the filter. Life straws are little tiny straws that you carry along with you when you go hiking. And if you're really thirsty and you ran out of water, you can just bend over like a creek or a pond and use a life straw, and it's going to filter out everything with a carbon filter. But they have these huge barrels for emergency locations, like in Africa, when they have really bad drinking water and they really need to filter it out. So you could do all of this stuff sustainably, right? So there's that, and that's exciting. I hope this stuff is inspiring to you. To me, this is like one of the most incredible and inspiring things. And if we as humans make lifestyle changes like along these lines all over the planet, all the poor people are going to have everything they need. And the poor people will no longer be poor because they have everything they need. You don't need, once you have all this stuff in place, you don't really need money. You're just sustaining yourself, You've already built your house. You've already, you only need a few, just a little bit to pay your taxes. And there's occasional things that you need, licorice, You probably learn to make your own. But so fog collectors, they collect the fog. And in the fog, And they have tested this all over the world, and the water is pure. It's pure. It's like, it's purer, more pure than the drinking water coming through your faucet in your house. Probably not fracking water, right? Yeah. I hate the frickin' frackers. I want to put that on a t-shirt. I hate the frickin' frackers. But yeah, so you can create literally water from nothing, water from air. Instead of waiting for the rainwater to come, which you can't do. Do you know it's illegal to collect rainwater? But I don't think in a lot of states in the United States it's illegal to grow food in your yard, in your front yard, and it's illegal to collect fog. I mean, it's illegal to collect rainwater, but it's not illegal to collect fog, and it's not illegal to have a upright vertical garden in your kitchen. There's rules, and there's ways to go around the rules, right? Don't tell anybody in government I just told you that. Now, what if you don't have a house and you don't have a way to grow your food and you don't have that? This is another cool thing. There is a food dehydrator that I found. Okay. Two things I think that every single kitchen should be with is a food dehydrator. Let me see. The highest quality one in the U.S., I'm going to say food dehydrator. And I'm going to tell you this, the name of this one in a minute. Best dehydrator. I'm looking that up. Okay, this one comes out of Sacramento. A family invented it like in the 1970s. And the food comes out perfect. You can make your own fruit roll-ups. You can even learn how to make yogurt and dry herbs. You grow and dry your own herbs. Or you can just go to farmer's market and then dry everything. And you put it in plastic bags, especially the bags that you seal. And those can last for 10 to 20 years. So you could very easily have your own food. I mean, your stored food, you could easily store like in a normal size box, like maybe 3 or 4 months worth of dehydrated food. You just have to, eat it with a lot of water. So I'm gonna take a quick break and then have another like maybe 20 minutes of this, and then I'll let you guys go. All right, so I looked it up. The best food dehydrator on the market, as far as I'm concerned, is the Excalibur food dehydrator because it's square or kind of like a little bit of a rectangle shape, and you could get 9 trays going at once, and so you can make a lot of stuff at once. My kids and I and my husband, we had 18 fruit trees in our yard, and at harvest time for our tiny little yard, we had a quarter of an acre, and we didn't plant the trees. We just showed up and they already were growing. We had pears and apples and plums and apricots and cherries, and the neighbor had figs and he hated figs, so we picked his figs. He said, "Oh, have whatever you want." But during the times of harvest, we were constantly busy every day for weeks, and we had 200 pounds coming off. Most of those trees had like up to 200 pounds of fruit. So we started doing fruit roll-ups, and it was like I worked for 12-hour days for like a week almost, maybe like 5 or 6 days. And we made so many fruit roll-ups that 6 years later we were still eating them. Fruit roll-ups taste delicious, and you preserve them with honey, and they won't go bad. You put them in a sealed bag. Just a normal Ziploc bag works. But you could do the other kind of sealed bags and they'll last 20 years. And it has a lot of vitamins, organic, and it's concentrated vitamins. It's concentrated. And with the Excalibur, they come out with a bunch of recipes when you buy this. And you could buy it on Amazon. I bought mine from eBay. You can make beef jerky, turkey jerky, any kind of jerky. for pennies compared to what you buy, $6 for 4 ounces at Walmart for jerky last time I was there 6 years ago. And you could buy carne de res and make jerky for like $2 for like several trays of it. It's, for me, I think it's worth it. This kind of thing. And what you can do with the food dehydrator, the Excalibur tells you exactly how to do this. You get the highest, most nutrient dense foods you can possibly buy at the organic farmers market in your town. Usually they're on Thursdays or Saturdays. And it's cheaper than the health food store. And you just go get the most nutrient dense foods and you wash them all thoroughly, and then you dehydrate them. And then you put them in a blender, a high-speed blender or a food processor like the Ninja, which is excellent. That's just like $100 or $200 at Walmart. Or you could get the Vitamix, which I highly recommend. Even gain an old Vitamix. It literally uses a jet engine. You can puree vegetables in just a matter of minutes. Like, you just put a bunch of vegetables in the top with a little bit of water. It purees it, and it goes so fast that in 10 minutes you can have piping hot soup with the Vitamix. So the two things are very, very expensive, but I highly recommend. And you can put ice and coffee and chocolate powder and a little bit of sugar in a Vitamix, and in 5 minutes you've got a Frappuccino better than Starbucks. I used to make them for my friends, and they come over. On the hot summer days, my friend Amber, God rest her soul, she'd come over and she's like, oh my God. And she was a gourmet chef. And she's like, oh my God, this is like incredible. And then I'd like put a little dollop of like Cool Whip on top, or not Cool Whip, but I'm sorry, like whipped cream, like ready whip. Sometimes I'd just whip it myself. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe the food you make. You're like incredible. And she was a gourmet chef. She was a million times better than me. And like, it's just the tools, when you've got the tools to do it, right? So Vitamix, I highly recommend the Vitamix, and I highly recommend the food dehydrator, So what happens is, if you take the food dehydrator and you dehydrate it on a certain temperature with the Excalibur, you can make it so powdery dry, you shove it all in the Vitamix, boom, in like 2 minutes you've got powder. Vegetable powder. If you've got a kid that only eats one meal a day and they hardly eat, you just take a scoop of that vegetable powder and all of their minerals and vitamins right now in a bowl of soup. Put it on top ramen if that's all they'll eat. You know what I mean? Okay, don't eat top ramen. It's not very good for you. But if you've got a kid that's having a really hard time with eating, or if you yourself have a hard time getting all the nutrients you need, who has time to eat 7 to 10 cups of vegetables that you need to sustain your life? You gotta juice it. Vitamix juices it. You can make juice. You go a little bit longer. You just made soup. It's like crazy. I missed my Vitamix. I almost stole it when I divorced my husband. I wanted to steal it so bad, and he caught me. I was all trying to sneak away the Vitamix. He's like, oh, hell no. I'm going to watch you back from now on. Like, I was only going to borrow it until I could buy one for myself, and then I was going to bring it back. He's like, no. Go buy yourself a brand new one. I'm like, And I never did. I hadn't bought one yet, but those are the only two things I'm going to recommend that run on electricity. So you're going to have to do. Bob Pierce also has information on how to do solar panels for pennies on the dollar using stuff you go find at the hardware store down your street. You could also go to YouTube and see how this kid did it with paper plates on the top of his little tent where he lives. He's super, super broke, but he was able to do this just for a couple dollars. And he has electricity. So you could run this stuff on electricity from the wind or the sun. There's different ways to do it. And you don't have to spend $10,000 for a system. You can do it yourself. It just takes a little bit longer. Bob Pierce also has ideas for a generator that runs on biodiesel. You bury it in your grounds because it's very loud. But I had plans to build this in my yard in Detroit so that I could provide my own electricity. I could provide my own, not that I don't know it's legal. It might not be legal where you live, but I was going to do it anyway. And then I found a thing that you could plug into the wall, and it reduces your electricity by like, I don't know, a lot. I mean, my electric bill went from like $500 a month to like $135. My kids we always had lights on. We had ghosts. They were scared at night, and plus the heaters in the winter time, it was like up to $500 a month just for electricity. And we plugged this thing in, and it went down to $135 a month. So there's things that you can do. Even in your car, there's a thing to plug in. HeartlandAmerica.com has a thing you plug into your car, and it reduces your fuel usage. So saves the planet, saves you money, right? Always, that's a good thing. So, but yeah, let's see. 7 best food dehydrators of 2019. Go to the spruceeats.com. It says what to buy small appliances, and they talk about the Nesco Snack Master and the Presto Dehydro. But I think, and they even say the best overall is Excalibur Food Dehydrator. You can find it at Amazon. You can find it on eBay. I got mine from eBay. It was like last year's model or something. It doesn't matter. I mean, a model from 1980 is going to be perfect from them. I think they might be guaranteed for life. They're really good. The family run. They're true Christians, really good people. Like, when I say true Christians, they're not like going to send you Bible quotes or anything weird. They're normal people. They have their beliefs. They believe they should help as many people as possible. They stand behind their machines, good people, integrity-filled people. So that's why I say true Christians. Like my brother, he's like that. He's a true Christian, like the way that Jesus would be, like real examples of what you should be in the world, right? Which you can find in any religion, but that's, and I don't know how I found that out. I think I had a conversation with the lady who, the wife, and it's a family business. The kids, they all are into it. But you could do this, like you could do dried fruit. Have you ever gotten those Weight Watchers snacks? My stepmom was really overweight after she gave birth to my brother, and when I was a little kid, it was like a treat to get these snacks, but they cost like 50 cents. But as an adult, I tried to buy them, and they're like $1, and I was like, oh my gosh! And they're just like not even like, it's like 2 slices of apple or something, and dehydrating these tiny little pieces, and they're not chewy; they're very crunchy. Well, this Excalibur can make your snacks like that. So it'll be crunchy like potato chips, but you're munching on fruits and vegetables instead. And you can marinate it in a sauce and make it a flavor, instead of Doritos. So that makes your life a lot more sustainable and your body a lot healthier. Okay, so finally, last but not least, the biggest thing that I can tell you that's going to tell you way more than what I ever could. You have to go to MotherEarthNews.com. If you have never seen this magazine, oh my God. Even if you don't want to garden, and even if you don't want to dehydrate your food, maybe you want to make any kind of preserving or canning, this magazine has it. If you do want to go full out, sustainable on your own, they have articles on how to raise goats and chickens and everything else, every kind of animal, horses, everything. They teach you all the different kinds of sustainable building methods. They tell you how to get in touch with people that will give you all the information, or books they review all the time. Natural health, nature and community. Some of the other things they do, preppers. They even have fiction. They even have fiction as part of their archives. Organic gardening, food, cooking healthy, like making really organic, fresh meals, how to homestead your land, how to find the best land for you. They had an article in a magazine I used to have from them that says how to grow $10,000 worth of herbs to sell in the marketplace in a 10 by 10 square foot garden. In 100 square feet, you could grow, and they tell you what are the highest quality herbs that you'll get the biggest price for. I mean, it's like really worth it. These magazines are interesting, even just to sit and read, just to be an armchair prepper. It's like super fun. Natural Health, they talk about the health, and they always have new information. They also have what to look for in a house if you're going to buy a house in the countryside. One of their articles saved my son's life. I had a vision during a hypnosis session. I went to hypnosis school, and we had like a 10-minute hypnosis every day before we did our schoolwork, and that's how we remembered everything we learned. They hypnotized us to remember everything, which is cool. And one of the times we went, this lady said, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have you see if you can see your future. And I think she was trying to get at, see if you can envision what you want to create for your future. Well, I kind of misunderstood her. And being a psychic and clairvoyant as I am, I went into the future and I saw my future. I saw my husband and I, we had a little girl, and we were going to, and mind you, I was sitting next to the man that would become my husband. We were still just friends and starting to maybe think about dating when I had this vision. So in my vision, we were married and had a little girl, and I had just given birth to a little boy who was a baby. And we moved into this farm, and it was a red farmhouse, and I saw the whole land. I saw everything. And within a month of moving into this house, my little baby was so sick he almost died. And they told us, we don't know why he's dying, and he's going to die, and this is definitely. And they told us all the things were wrong with him, and I was like crying. I was like, oh my God. And I came out of the vision, and he's like, what? I'm like, I don't think I could tell you right now, right? And so when we did start looking for places to move to in Oregon, this place was on the market, and I wanted it more than anything. I'm like, it was on 40 acres, and across the 40 acres was one of the most beautiful waterfalls you've ever seen. This big, huge, rushing river, and I'm like, this place is gorgeous. And I saw a vision. There's like apple orchards. It was gorgeous. And he was like, I don't know. I have a feeling about the well. There's something about the well. I'm like, well, we'll fix the well, And I really, really, really wanted the house. And I called to ask about it. And she said, well, they're getting the well test now because someone else was interested in it. And then she called back and said, well, the well test came back and it's not good. There's this weird bacteria in the well. You have to fix the well. It's going to cost $2,500. So they have to knock off the price, and you can't move in until it's fixed. I'm like, okay, whatever. That's weird. And so the next day, my Mother Earth News magazine came, and I read this article about how there's a weird bacteria that makes most people have a little bit of diarrhea, like they get a little bit sick, like nausea, feel like they have the flu, but for babies. And they listed all the symptoms I saw my little baby having. And at the time, I had my daughter and I had my baby. So everything was lining up. I'm like, that's my house. That's my house. Oh my God, that's my house. I mean, I knew what it looked like inside the house before it was even on the market. And then it was on the market, and I saw a picture, I'm like, yes, that's a house. Oh my God, that's my house. Holy moly. This future visioning stuff works. Woo. And my husband said, but our son was sick. I'm like, yeah, he's going to get sick and no one's going to know why, but why not live in that place while it happens, At least we're in a beautiful place when it happens. We could be relaxed. And he's like, I think there's something to do with the water. And then that night I had a dream, and he had a dream. We both had a dream. And he woke up and he said, it's not my problem, and it's never going to be my problem. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, no. I saw there's something wrong, really, 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 really wrong with the septic. And the septic tank is leaking into the drinking water. And so the next day, our real estate agent called and said, all right, so that house has been taken off the market because they discovered that the septic tank was leaking into the drinking water because of the way it was built. It wasn't built correctly because it was on a hill, and one was leaking down the hill into the other when the tank broke. And in Mother Earth News magazine, it said all the symptoms of what a baby would have if this exact situation had happened, because sometimes it happens. It's very, very rare. But it had happened to a family and their baby almost died. They moved and the baby was fine. And that's what would have happened to my youngest kid. And I burst into tears. Like, I don't want to live in that place. Screw that place. They might have fallen into the waterfall. Forget it, like, forget it. But there's something magical about Mother Earth News magazine, at least for me, because I feel like it saved my kid's life. My husband and I both had a dream about that house being dangerous. The same, like, the day before, like, so we woke up that morning with these dreams going, wait a minute. You know what? That vision I saw was not a vision of, hey, this is your great future. It was a vision of, this is where you should never move to. It was a warning future vision. I mean, it's all well and good to be psychic, but you got to know how to read it correctly. And I wasn't reading it right. I was really pushing to live in that house. And I'm so glad that my husband put his foot down and said, no, I got a feeling that it's not good. Also, we couldn't even sell our own house, so we couldn't live there anyway. But it's like a $256,000 house, but it was enormous. It was like a rolling farmhouse, 3,600 square feet. It was like on 40 acres. It was like all the food was already growing, organic vegetable garden, horses, barn, everything. It was perfect. But except for the water that would have killed my kid. And thank God, because I love my kid and he's an awesome kid now. So, I'm glad we didn't go through that. So I wanted to tell you guys about this because this is really, really cool. For $25, you can have a copy of every Mother Earth News magazine ever made from 1970 to 2018 on a USB drive. How cool is that? Like the old with the new, just boom, just like that. So $25. So I haven't done this yet, but I definitely want to, because this is one of the most incredible, it's one of the most incredible magazines I've ever seen. They will tell you about everything. I mean, if you live in the city and you want to do solar panels versus wind, they'll tell you which one's the better one. You live in the countryside, you want to raise chickens, they're going to tell you what kind of eggs each chicken produces. Like this chicken will only give you 40 eggs a year, but they'll be giant eggs. This chicken will give you small eggs, but they'll give you 98 per year. And they'll tell you all this weird stuff like that. Stuff that, I grew up in LA. I don't know anything, to do with this stuff, but I've thought about becoming sustainable. I've thought about it a lot. But they talk about, they even have their own homesteading tools and supplies. They have gardening information. They've got stuff on herbs and project plans to build playhouses for your kids, or a swing set, or a tool shed, or a reading room, or if you're a writer and you want to build a little cottage just out of sustainable materials that you find in junkyards, or you want to build a pallet couch for your backyard. They'll tell you how to do it and what to look for, because some pallets have horrible, chemicals that will leach out and you could get cancer from them. What pallets do you buy? What pallets do you not buy? If they're pressure treated with water, then good. That's great. If they're pressure treated with chemicals, that can kill you. It can leach into your water, in your groundwater when it rains. You know what I mean? So this is the best magazine I've ever seen in my life for anything and everything sustainable living, even gardening indoors, just even growing, just a tree in your house, They'll tell you what's wrong with your ficus or whatever. I don't know what a ficus is really. It's some kind of green leafy thing. That's all I know. But they sell a lot of books. They have information on a lot of things. They've got how to make your own plant medicine. So, what if we were all in the apocalypse or something and there's no way to, and I don't want to be, I'm not a doomsday sayer, but I think that we should all be able to support ourselves, with food and stuff, and just be able to sustain our own world, our own lives. So, I mean, I'm working towards buying a little bit of land, and I want to put some little houses, and maybe I'll make them guest houses, and you all can come stay with me for a week, and we can all learn stuff together, meditate together, or just hang out. Maybe I'll have like a food workshop and teach you all my crazy recipes, you know. But renewable energy, natural health, I'm just looking at this, like anything to do with children. They talk about things like how to raise babies like in a better way that's more sustainable. So anyway, MotherEarthNews.com, and that was my final thing to tell you. I get like super excited about this stuff, but you know, at the very least, you know, maybe try to get the food dehydrator, try to make your own, you know, stuff that you could keep for years, because, you know, you never know. Make your own sauerkraut, you know, make your own pickles, and, you know, save some money and have some fun and get back to the old fashioned ways of doing things, because that might be what saves us in the end. You know, that's the way I look at it. And I know this isn't necessarily metaphysical, but I do think that in the future we will have communities. We will get together with our neighbors, and you know, maybe Martha down the block, she's going to be making pickles for everybody on the block. And maybe you're in charge of sauerkraut and somebody else is in charge of yogurt. And maybe, you know, Bert at the end, he keeps his bees, and so he's going to give everyone honey. I mean, if you were able to do all of that, you know, like if everyone was able, and then you use up those jars and you clean them out and make something for everybody again. What if you had a community garden? What if you took one of those burned out old lots that no one's ever going to build on, and you asked the city, hey, you know, can we use that lot? You know, no one's buying it. Do you guys want to just grant it to us? And now you can have a community garden, and you can make a concrete bench, an aircrete bench, or cob cottage oven. And make really beautiful community things where people can come together. And I love the idea of having a graffiti wall specifically where the kids could come and do their art. They could do, say, whatever they want, and once a month it gets painted over and everyone starts again. You know, I like these ways of sustainable thinking that, you know, where you just go, look, I know you want to spray paint a wall. It's kind of fun. So you know what? Here's a wall. You could do that. And we're going to erase it every month, and you start over. We're going to take pictures of it. You know, there's no reason why you can't do that. You know, why people can't do this. And I wanted to do this in Detroit. Although in Detroit, in the burned out old abandoned buildings, for a long time, it was absolutely legal to do street art. So you're going to see some of the most beautiful street art in the world. Because it was legal, and people could be out in the open taking their time making beautiful art. Because people don't want to make ugly art, they want to make beautiful art, you know. And if they have the time and the ability, and it's not illegal, then, you know. So I've thought about a lot of these things. Like, you know, I feel like if we all pull together as a world community, and we learn these sustainable practices, and we teach them to people that have less than us, and if we can build maybe a foundation or something, gender deal, here's an idea. I know I'm going to get an email from you in the minute you hear this. But what if we build a world community, you know, where we give all these ideas and exchange all these ideas, and, you know, those of us that have money but we don't have the time, we could donate the money. Those of us that have the time and not the money, we can donate our time. And, you know, the rest of us, we're somewhere in between. You know, maybe don't have time or money, or maybe have both. I don't know. But, you know, what if we donated the wind sails to the people in, you know, parts of the world that don't have water that runs in a pipe to their house, or they don't have a house, you know? Even people that cross the desert, like the Bedouins, you know, that are like are pretty much wandering nomads. And if they have these sails, they could just have personal individual sails, and they could just hook them up at night, you know, set up their tent, set up their sail, wake up in the morning, bada boom, bada bing, clean, fresh water right from the air. God provided. It's pretty cool, right? I mean, there's all these ideas, and I feel like there's got to be a way that we could put all of them together where we're all going to benefit in the whole wide world eventually. Start with you. I'll start with me. There's ways that we can do everything that will use less resources, create better healthy food, create better sustainable living. Our bodies are going to be healthier. We're going to feel better. No depression or anxiety if we have all the correct nutrition. I mean, food and shelter and water. That's what all you need, besides, of course, love and human interaction. Sometimes human-animal interaction for those of us that love cats. And horses. Oh, I love horses. I don't think I'll ever keep horses because it's just so hard, but it's so much. But I don't know. I hope that this helps you guys. This is a super long episode. Sorry about that. That's all I got to say about that. I'll be back tomorrow with all unique original programming. We will be reading tomorrow from The Spirits book by Allan Kardec. I believe it's part 7 or 8. I think it's part 7. I think that's what it is. Anyway, we're going to come back and we're going to read more in that book. That snarky, funny book from 1857. And, well, there you have it. There it is. That's all I got to say about that. I love you guys. Thank you for being on this journey and on the spaceship Earth with me. I'm glad we're in the 5th dimension because I think all these ideas are going to come together just like that. And we're going to be able to create the most amazing world and produce a ton of food that's going to not go bad for a ton of time. And we can share it with a ton of people. And everyone's going to be okay. I just want everybody to be okay. I want to help feed the frickin' world. Anyway, that's it. I love you guys. Signing off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy 5th dimension. Until next time, guys. Peace. Do you ever wish you could look into the next chapter in your book of life and see what's coming next? What does the universe have in store for you? I can help you with that. I will give you a Celtic cross reading, which is 10 cards, or you can ask me 3 questions, and I use 3 cards per question. So that's 9 cards, or I can channel your higher guidance, or maybe God directly for you. Maybe you want to talk to your dear departed Aunt Edna, because maybe you have a few questions and she was the smartest person you knew. If your deceased relatives are available or your ascended masters, I can channel them for you personally. Let me have 1 hour to show you the future in your next chapter of your book of life. Readings are $75, and it takes me an hour to an hour and a half to complete. And for this price, you will also be hooked up to the healing grid around the planet for free, which means yours truly, me, I will be giving you Reiki 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. All you have to do is let me know. metaphysicalsoulspeak@gmail.com, and we will explore your future together.